What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, coming at you today with another episode of Does It Suck? The show where we take a deep dive look at a new game and see what's good or bad about it. This time we're going to be checking out the Division 2 beta, which just began late last night. I decided to stay up until dawn, making sure I could beat every single facet of this, because surprisingly, this is a rather big beta. It includes several main story missions, lots of different side quests, and even some in-game content. And now that I've actually gotten a chance to play it, I can see that this is a very big and very different take on The Division. I mean, I'll just admit this, I did not care for the original game, mostly because I thought that it had so many small problems. Enemies took too many hits, and overall I thought that there just wasn't enough stuff to do within the world. And it looks like they are very much trying to repair this complaint in the sequel. The Division 2 obviously takes place this time in Washington, so we're going to be walking around the Capitol, seeing a blown up White House, and just kind of the utter chaos that has unfolded here. Just right out of the gate, I have to say that the new environments are very, very sharp. It's cool to see something other than Manhattan Island. It's very gorgeous to see different parks alongside different houses, and also I feel like you get a better feeling this time around of just how destroyed this world was. Like, sometimes you'll just be walking through a courtyard that seems fine and getting a drink out of a vending machine, and the next 45 seconds you're seeing people strung up from light posts. You get more of a feeling of the fact that this is what would happen if the government just left, because that's sort of the story of The Division, is that after this giant plague, everybody just died. Nobody was left. There was nobody to keep the law in place. So because of it, humans just reverted back to their most base instincts, kill or be killed. And now we are the law. We are the sheriff in a town where absolutely everybody is ready to tear each other's eyes out. Now let's talk about the combat, because this was my biggest concern. In the original game, oh my gosh, there were so many bullet spongy enemies. People who could take literally 45 headshots and be fine. Thankfully, it seems like this has been fixed for the most part. I'm sure if you noticed in a lot of these gameplay clips, people drop relatively quick. Now, keep in mind, this is a beta, so we're kind of just looking more towards the beginning of the game, but at least it seems like damage levels have finally been normalized. If I shoot somebody with a high-level shotgun, they drop. Not everybody is wearing 15 bulletproof vests layered over every major organ. I also think that it seems like they boosted enemy damage. I noticed that I was dying a lot more, and I was more reliant on my teammates, which I like. It's very enjoyable to have that real fear in this, instead of treating everybody like a giant target practice board. It is very sharp, and it made me actually rely a lot more on my new special abilities. So, The Division has obviously always been very centered on technology, tech, special abilities, and in this case, it seems like they're a lot stronger and seem like they may have a longer cooldown. So throughout the course of this beta, basically every single time you complete a main story mission, you get more talent points. It's basically their way of making it where when you beat the game, you will obviously have every single skill. So during this, I actually unlocked a drone that could do all sorts of cool stun attacks, a little thing that was like a remote control explosive ball that I could drop on the ground, which was by far my favorite since it's basically a stick of dynamite that rolls across the room, and the last one, which was like a turret I could drop on the ground. Along with this, of course, there's your main talent trees, where you can actually specialize in what you want your character to have, like a bigger backpack, faster reload, more damage for certain weapons, stuff like that. And I noticed that a lot of this stuff seems much more centered on empowering you. As I played through this, I tried to do every single bit of everything, literally. I mean, I actually just joined random parties sometimes to kick down doors for random side quests, just to make sure I got to every schematic and every unlockable to get a good feeling for the game. And I can definitely say that it seems like they're trying their best to make it where as you do stuff, it feels like something is happening. There was a major issue with the original Division at times of just feeling like nothing was happening. You were sort of just doing quests because the story was cool, but it didn't really do anything in the universe. But now it really feels like I am rescuing people. I am improving my base. I am changing stuff around me. Now let's talk a little little bit more about just this world itself. The city seems like it is going to be very, very large. You basically got a center section here that we could wander around in. You could probably go into the other spots, but they're just so high level that you would get very easily wiped out. Because keep in mind, even though this looks like a cool third-person shooter, this is actually an RPG. I mean, at the end of the day, you're going to be having different skill points for your weapons. You're going to be doing stuff that basically just emphasizes the fact that this is a role-playing game with a Tom Clancy skin over it. So after I'd completed all these side quests and main quests, I decided to try and head over to the Dark Zone, which surprisingly they added to the beta. This is, well, personally, I think the toughest part of these games. I mean, it is an area of utter lawlessness. When you go to the Dark Zone, other players can kill you, there's super high level enemies, and all the content you get here, the loot and stuff, is extremely good. But going here, you're gonna get your butt kicked. Now, since I was playing this in the middle of the night, unfortunately, I did not ever see other players. I couldn't find any way to even engage it. I did try and search for a party, but there was nobody really up and available at this time. But it seems like the Dark Zones are much more centered on being filled with NPCs. Originally, there were some of these bad guys, but the main point was obviously trying to kill other players or make friends with other players. The desperation of, hey, this place is extremely toxic, let's get the gear and get out. I still think this is good, but I want to see how it shapes up in the final game. This was honestly very, very vacant right now. There was also a big boss fight I could do that was sort of like an in-game tease, a final raid, and this was also very, very neat. I guess what really concerns me though is that this still needs a little bit of polish. Now, obviously, let's just get the elephant in the room out of the way, which is that this was very clearly getting the Ubisoft downgrade. Graphically, it just does not look as good as the trailers made it seem, except when you're inside. That's definitely one of the strangest things cosmetically, is when I actually went indoors for certain boss fights and stuff like that, it's gorgeous. Fire effects look different, everything looks different when you're indoors and on a mission. So I think that the deeper you go into the game, there's probably going to be a lot more cool stuff that just looks super, super good. I guess I really want to try and see more of this game because there were a lot of invisible walls in this. Like at one point I was just trying to go along and I saw a sewer and I was like, oh sweet, the underground, this is where the good stuff's at. But I went down there, it just really glitched out. It didn't know what was going on, which isn't surprising because this is a beta, but I kind of want to see stuff like this. I really have no idea. I also had a lot of random glitches of just, it seemed like the server lagging out or having errors where it would make my character suddenly run super, super fast, or I would be trying to shoot somebody and my bullets would go right through them because the server was saying they were in one spot and my console was saying that they were in another. And it's just one of those things that you can definitely tell that this is something that is very obviously heavily reliant on the server. So if for some reason a bunch of people are trying to log in simultaneously, it just makes it where everybody who's currently online, it's basically unplayable. I will say that it seems like the stability of the server from what I've seen so far is pretty decent, and I really like the new matchmaking system. At any point you can literally just say, I want a party, and you'll get it. You can either call for help so people can just help you on a random side quest, or you can search specifically to try and find players for any activity, or even a random activity. This is actually what I did a bunch of, which is after I'd completed all the main quests, I just kept pressing random activity, so I'd get a bunch of random people in my group to just tear stuff up. I mean, to be cops, to patrol the streets, and that was really, really great. It was a true blast, and it makes me excited for what this game is going to be. I'm still worried about the in-game content, though. If I end up buying The Division 2, I want to make sure that the end of it is giving me a bunch of stuff to interact with, and while the developers have promised that, I'm still a little bit skeptical. I want to make sure that there's a lot of stuff that'll make it where this world keeps me interested, and to be honestly, to have a bunch of good story beats in this. But what do you think? I still am a little bit on the fence. I want to make sure that this doesn't turn into a giant bullet sponge fuss the way the original game did, but I'm very, very hopeful that this could be the future of Ubisoft. This could be the next major game to get people invested, and I'm definitely going to check it out. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. You know, I am surprisingly awake for just staying up all night playing this game. You know, I think it's that this game is actually pretty exciting, so, you know, it kind of kept my pulse pounding. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, you know, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.